Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Justin here, and we're back on freecodecamp.org. And the algorithm that we're looking at is under JavaScript algorithms and data structures projects. That's such a long title. And the one that we're looking at is the final one, as a matter of fact, cast register. All right, so guys, if you guys are interested in any of these other ones here, like palindrome checker, Roman numeral converter, and so on, I have videos for all of them. Links in the description below. I also have videos for all the ones under intermediate algorithm scripting. So please go inside my channel and check out any of these that you guys want to. But today we are interested in the last one of the data structure projects one, which is cast register. Now, let me give you guys a heads up for those who hasn't done this yet. This is a beefy one. It's a pretty juicy one, and it will take a little bit of time. So, as always, I highly encourage you guys to, if you haven't tried this out already, please pause the video, try it out. Just try it out. You might run into a couple mistakes, and please read the directions very carefully before you attempt. Look at some of these outputs, the expected outputs that's down here, because this question, in my opinion, is kind of needlessly precise in the ways that they want things. It's kind of stupid, if I were to be honest. However, they asked of us to do it, so we'll do it for them. But just keep that in mind. Be very careful. Make sure you're good at reading directions, okay? So pause the video now and try it, and come back to this video to see my solution. Okay, so if you're still here, I'm gonna assume that you guys have tried this. Whether you got it right or not, that's not the issue. We will solve it together here. Let me just bring the code over here, and let me read the directions for us, okay? Design a cast register drawer function, check cast register, that accepts purchase price as the first argument, price, payment as the second argument, cash, and cash in drawer, CID, as the third argument. Okay, so we have three parameters here. CID is a 2D array listing available currency. The check cast register function should always return an object with a status key and a change key. Return this if cash in drawer is less than the change due, or if you cannot return the exact change. Return this with cash in drawer as a value for the key change if it is equal to the change due. So this is kind of important right here. If we have exactly the amount that they are asking for in change, then we give them back the CID, pretty much, is if it is, what does it say here? With a CID, cash in drawer, as the value of the change, if it is equal to the change due, okay? This is important. It'll come back later. Otherwise, return status open with the change due in coins and bills sorted highest to lowest order as the value of the change key. So this is where it gets kind of stupid, okay? So if we have the exact amount, if the change is the exact amount as our CID, what do? We just return the CID in the change key. So look at what CID is like, okay? Check this out. This is an example of a CID array. It starts from the lowest to the highest. So if we get closed, such as, where are we? This one closed, we sort these from lowest to highest, because that's how our CID was given to us. However, if we use the open one, then we sort it from the greatest to lowest. So if you look here, 20, 10, 5, 1, quarter, dime, penny. So this is where it gets kind of stupid. But whatever, that was their direction. So we'll follow it. Now, before we go on, a couple things to consider. JavaScript is very weird when it comes to fractions, when it comes to decimals. Okay, so check this out. I'm gonna open up, not that one, but my console within my Chrome, not my sound mic. I don't know why that opened. Is my freaking touchpad. There we go. We finally got this to one. Okay, let me clear this real quick. Oh, no. How do I clear this terminal? I completely forgot. Okay, whatever. Oh, no, I just pressed. So let's try this. I'm going to try. I had the console open. I'm going to try 0.1 plus 0.2. Look at what we get here. We got this crazy 0.30000 and then a 4 at the end. So this is where things get a little murky when you deal with decimals in JavaScript. So the standard way of dealing with money, for example, like some dollar amount and including some change amount, we always want to convert everything. We want to times everything by 100. So for example, here we say 19.5, right? That's $19.50. We want to multiply this by 100, so we get 1950. And this 20 becomes 2000. That way, we could do all the math in the world. So for example, 1 plus 2, if I could type it, there we go. That will give us 3. That won't give us like 3.0004. So what we're going to do is we're going to change all of our amounts to multiply them by 100 so that we don't deal with this type of error right here, okay? Because this type of inaccuracy could bite us in the butt in the end, okay? So let's multiply everything by 100. Not only that, look at this. I don't know why they gave us our CID value in an array with an array of key value pairs like this. Why don't you just use an object? So I don't know why they did this, but they did it this way, so we'll just follow with their directions. So before we go on, above our function here, by the way, here's one last caveat, okay? Notice the key value for the 1. We use the actual word ONE, the 1, right? But look at this example that they put here. Here they put $, which is super confusing. Now, I don't know why they did it like this. It's probably a typo right here, but it should be a 1, okay? So whenever we deal with one single dollar bills, we use the keyword 1, not dollar like they show you here. I don't know what. This is a huge mistake on them, whatever. Okay, so let's go on. Before we go on, I'm gonna make like a dictionary object, a key value pair object that tells me what each of these keys, what amount they correspond to. With the times 100, okay? So just follow along with me. Let's write const, what should we call this? Money dict, how about that? Money dictionary. It will be an object of key value pairs. So we have penny, which is what's the amount in penny times 100. Remember, normally it's 0.01, but we don't like dealing with decimals in JavaScript. So we're just gonna say this is 1, because 0.01 times 100 is 1. And then we have nickel. Make sure you write these very carefully. Don't make typos. Which is 5. Dime, which is 10. Quarter, which is 25. Now we get to 1. Remember, not dollar, but 1. And this is 100. 5, which is 500. 10, which is 1,000. 20, which is 2,000. We skip 50. For some reason, they don't have $50 bills. And we get to 100, which is 10,000. So make sure you wrote these very carefully. And we're going to be referencing this, using this from now on. So whenever you have constant values like this, like 1, 5, 10, instead of manually writing them like that and have a potential of making mistakes, you want to define a dictionary like this so that you could just reference that. So like, let's say by accident, we made this 1 into 1,000 by accident, and then our code wasn't working. We could be like, oh, we could just change it here instead of changing it everywhere where we reference that value. And just looking at numbers, if you had this big function here, it'll be very hard to see which one you have to change, right? So this is a good practice in JavaScript. Whenever you're dealing with constants like this, just make a dictionary like this. And let's go on. So what we are interested in, let me close this real quick. Let me make this a little bit bigger for us. What we are interested in right now is the difference between cash and price. So if you look here, if you look at the test example here, 20 is the cash, price is the 19.5. So the difference, the change that we have to give is 50 cents, right? So that's what we want right here. Let's erase all this nonsense. What should we call that? I'm gonna use the word let, the keyword let instead of const, because I'm gonna change this value as we go on, and that'll make more sense as we keep on going. But let's just call this amount left to pay. How about that? And so it's gonna be cash minus price. But remember, we don't like dealing with decimals, so I'm gonna put parentheses around them. And then I'm just going to multiply by 100, okay? That is very important. Now, why I'm calling it amount left to pay is I'm going to try subtracting the $100 bills from our CID. And then we're going to subtract it from this amount left to pay. We're going to keep on going until we have covered every single monetary value. Is that what it's called? But I hope you get the idea. Okay, so let's do this. Now, what we should do is we should go through our CID, see which we should try to subtract the $100 bills first. And then if we can't go down, or if we did, go down to 20 and then go down to 10, 5, 1 quarter, all the way to penny. So that's what we want to do. However, again, before we go on, we don't like dealing with decimals. And not only that, I don't know anyone that likes dealing with this array of an array thing. So I'm going to convert this whole nonsense here to an object that kind of looks like this. Penny. The key penny is going to be not 1.01, but 101 because we multiply by 100. And then a nickel that is 205 and so on. So it will be a single object instead of this crazy array with array stuff. We're going to convert it to this, okay? So let's write, what should we call that? Here we could use const. No, we'll just use let. Let's cache and drawer. How about CID object? CID object, and we could even shorthand the object. CID obj, like that. And the way that we are going to do that is this. So notice this is an array, right? This is what we're going to do. We're going to use CID dot, an array has a method called reduce. Pretty much it gets an array, loops through each element, and converts that into something else, whatever we tell it to do. It takes in two arguments here. The first one is a callback function. The second one is the initial value of what's called the accumulator. So let me just write it out for you guys. Within the callback function is our first element. Within the parameters, we always have this ACC, short for accumulator. And the next element is called the element that we're looping over. In our case, it's an array. Each element is an array, right? In this case, penny, this case, nickel, and so on. But not only that, not only are they array, there's specifically an array of two length, two elements. There's always the key here, the name of the dollar value of the, I don't know what you call this, and then the actual amount, right? So we could destructure that right away, as a matter of fact. Put in an array here. We're going to destructure this value here. We're going to store that under the variable name. What should we call it? The money type. How about that? Money type. And the next value we know is the amount. Whoops. Like so. Now this will be an arrow function, like so. And remember I said the second parameter of the reduce function is the initial value of our object. So we want to make an object, right? So we're going to start out as an empty object. This accumulator is called a memory variable. We pretty much, whatever we return from this, that's what our accumulator becomes, starting with the initial value of this empty object. And we're going to keep on filling it up with the stuff that we have written down here until we are done. So we're just going to return here in object. We're going to spread the accumulator, what the accumulator was so far. So for example, if we went through the first two iterations, accumulator would equal this. Penny is 101 and nickel is 205, right? So this, whoops, I spelled that wrong. Nickel is 205. This was our accumulator after the second iteration. So we're just going to spread this value right here so that later we could add dime is 310, I believe. So that's what we're doing when we spread. So we're spreading everything, but we're adding the money type as a key. So how do we get this as a key? We can't just write money type like this. Let me show you guys. And by the way, we're going to do amount times 100, right? Because we don't want to deal with decimals. Let me just show you guys why we can't do this money type as a key like so. And notice this is still gray, meaning it's not being used. Let me console log our CID object that we have just created with our reduce function. Let's see what that is all about. I'm going to run this. We get this. Money type is just 10,000. We only have one key, and the key is money type. We don't. So this, when we write it like this, JavaScript thinks that we actually want to name the key as money type. That's not what we want to do. We want to name it as whatever value this money type variable has. So the way that we do that is we just put square brackets around it. Whoops. Square brackets, like so. Now let's console log again, see what we get. So now this is more like it. Although we have this kind of crazy thing going on here. So this is again JavaScript being JavaScript. For some reason, when we multiply by 100, it gave us this crazy nonsense here. So how should we deal with this? How about this? Let's just math.round whatever value this was, okay? And just to make sure that our amount left to pay doesn't become crazy like that too, why don't we math.round that too? That's gonna round it to the nearest whole number. Let's see what we get now. I'm gonna run the code again, and now we don't have any of those crazy decimal values. So I think this is better for us. And notice what CID object is. It's a single object with bunch of key value pairs. I think, in my opinion, this is much easier to work with than this crazy array of an array that they have given us. So this is what we'll be working with from now on. So hopefully you guys are still with me. We just created a CID object, and what we have to do now is we have to go through each of our cache and drawers, starting with the 100. We want to start subtracting from this amount left to pay, starting from the biggest denomination first. That's the word I was looking for this whole time, denomination. Also, technically, nickel's not denomination, is it? I'm not sure. Okay, whatever. That's not the purpose of this course. So we want to start from the biggest denomination, keep on subtracting if possible. And as we subtract, we want to do a couple things. We want to subtract from our amount left to pay the most amount that we could subtract. We want to subtract from CID object because we may later want to return that later. And also we want to add up inside another array that we're going to return. So check this one out. Which one do I want? Is let's see, not insufficient funds, but the one with open. This one right here, status open. We want to return the array that has all the array with this key value pair type of thing going on, with the denomination on the left side and the amount that we took out from the right side. So why don't we initialize that right now? So we're gonna say let change to give. How about that? And we will initialize this as an empty array, but we will fill it up as we keep on adding money amounts to it. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, let's begin with our $100 bill. So let's do this. The only times we will try to access $100 bills from our CID object is two things. Either the amount left to pay has to be greater or equal to the monetary value itself, in this case 10,000. So we could either say if amount left to pay is greater or equal to 10,000. So we could either write 10,000 here, but this is bad practice. I would much rather use the money dictionary with 100 as a key. Again, this makes debugging easier later, trust me. All right, so if the amount left to pay is greater or equal to 100, and why are we doing this? Let me show you guys an example here. Look at this, the first example here. The amount, the cash was 19.5. They gave us $20, so that's 50 cents left, right? Are we ever going to possibly take out $100 bills from a 50-cent change? No. So we want this to be at least greater or equal to the amount money dictionary in 100, which is 10,000 in our case, because we multiply everything by 100. Not only that, we need some money to exist within our CID object as 100, right? So we need CID object of 100 to exist. So we could just do that. Now, if that is the case, then we have two scenarios. Either the amount left to pay is greater than the amount in the CID object, in which case we just use all of our $100 bills, or our CID object of $100 bills, our cash and drawer of $100 is more than the amount left to pay, so we just give them maybe one, maybe two, maybe three, or so on, right? So those are two different conditions. So we will do this. If the amount left to pay is greater, should I want to equal to? Yes, let's do equal to. Greater or equal to CID object of 100. Meaning the amount left to pay was more than all the $100 bills we had left, then we just give them all of our $100 bills, right? So if this is the case, let's see what we're going to do. We're going to do amount left to pay. We're going to subtract it by the total amount that we have. Let's do this. How about, I'm going to destructure that. So const amount to subtract is going to equal everything in our CID object of 100. And from amount left to pay, we're going to subtract to it, minus equals amount to subtract. Not only that, we have to push to change to give, right? So let's push it to that, change to give, dot push. And remember that accepts an array, the first one being the actual key, denomination, and also the amount to subtract is the amount that we're gonna give. However, we gotta be very careful because this is right now multiplied by 1,000, by 100 I mean. Later when we return it, we want to return it with the proper values, right? So how about we just do amount to subtract divided by 100. That should work. All right, and finally, we want to subtract from the CID object. So CID object of at 100 should just be now 0 because we took out everything, right? Else. So that was the case when the amount left to pay was greater than all the amount that we had in our $100 bills. Otherwise, we have more $100 bills than they need to have. So we're only gonna give them part of it. So how much are we gonna give them? That's the question. So I'm gonna write amount to subtract again. Amount to subtract is equal to, bear with me, we're gonna do amount left to pay. Let's do amount left to pay. We can't subtract from amount left to pay amount that is not multiple of $100 bills. For example, we can't give them $125 worth of $100 bills subtracted from amount to pay. We can only subtract multiples of 100, right? So we want to divide this. We want to see how many $100 bills we could get them. So the way that we're going to divide this is either write 10,000 here, but even better yet, we're going to do money dict of 100, which will give us 1,000 or 10,000. 100. Make sure you spell it right because otherwise everything breaks. And so this will give you like a decimal. If amount left to pay was like, let's just pretend that we're not multiplying everything by 100. I know it's getting so confusing. I'm sorry, guys. It's just nature of JavaScript. Let's say amount left to pay was $303. And we want to see how much we have to divide, right? So in this case, we're saying amount left to pay divided by 100 is like 3.03, right? We don't want to take out 3.03 amount. We want to math.floor this to get 3. Now, after we got 3, we just want to multiply it back by the money dict of 100. So this will give us $300 worth of 100 that we're going to subtract from. Hopefully that made sense. All right, so now that we got the amount to subtract, we're going to do the same thing here. Subtract from the amount left to pay of amount to subtract. Change to give push. But how much are we pushing exactly? We're pushing 100 again. And we're pushing amount to subtract, same thing as a matter of fact, 100, like so. And CID object at 100. We're going to subtract from it, not set it equal to 0 this time, but subtract from it the amount to subtract. Hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully that this is all correct. If we can do this, we either do this or this. Otherwise, we don't do anything with 100. Now, pretty much, we have to do the same thing here, except change these words 100 to, what was the next one? $20, and then the next one to 10. So that's a lot of repeated code, right? So one of the principles in programming is the dry principle. Don't repeat yourself. So what we're going to do, that's what we're going to do. We're going to abstract this into a function that will take care of this for us so that we could just use that many times. So let me just copy this whole big if statement. Let's make a function above our check cash register function, our main function. And I will call this, I will use arrow function notation, by the way, because I just like that better. All right, we'll call this, what should we call it? I'm never good with names, guys. So sorry about that. How about subtract, take out money from CID. How about that? I don't know, terrible thing. Okay, but we gotta pass in a couple things. We have to pass in the amount left to pay. We have to pass in the, let's see, CID objects. We have to also pass in the change to give array, change to give. And finally, we gotta pass in the money type, which can either be 100, 20, and so on. Now, the reason why we're passing all of these in is because later we're going to return the updated values of these three. The amount left to pay will be subtracted if we could subtract anything from it. CID object will also be subtracted in that denomination. Change to give will also have been pushed if we subtracted any money. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me just paste this if big if condition here. Now, we no longer want to reference these with 100 string, but with this money type. So we have one here. If you're using VS Code, then just highlight this, Command D everything, like so, until you get everything until there. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Erase that and write money type. Hopefully you did that correct. Hopefully. Now, at the end of it all, we have either subtracted things from this and added to change to give and subtracted from CID object, or if we never satisfied the if condition, meaning the denomination was too big, so we can't take out any money from there, or we had no denomination in that, we just return what we have given the function, right? So no matter what the case, outside of the if, we're just gonna return, and there's multiple ways to return this. I'm gonna just return an array of these objects that I need. I need amount left to pay, CID object, and change to give. Now, let me explain what is going on here. We're gonna erase all this stuff here and write. We're gonna notice how we're returning an object here in the function that we have just created. I'm just gonna destructure these three objects right away. The way that we do that is just put an array, write amount left to pay as our first variable, CID object again, and change to give as our third. And these three, we're going to destructure it from this function called take out money from CID. Remember that first gets amount left to pay, CID object, change to give, and the money type, we're going to start out as 100. Hopefully that made sense. Now, this is not a good example here. I want to test out our code, but this is not a good example because it only takes out from the quarters, if you guys remember. Let me try finding a better example here. Maybe this one is a good example, although they do not have 100. Such a shame. How about this? I'm going to spice this example up a little bit. I'm going to paste it in here. And before I paste it in, let's just put a console log to everything. Actually, why am I doing that? We don't need a console log because we have no returns yet. I copied wrong, so let me try copying it correctly this time. I should go to here before the should part. Like so. Now, the reason why I'm trying to test out the 100, right? The only issue is, yes, we do have $100 bill in the bank. However, the change is not enough. They gave us 100, 326. That's like what, 96? That's 74. That's not enough to give them any of our 100. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pretend that they give us 200. That way we'll give them at least 100 for sure. Okay, so what I want to do is here, let's console log after our $100 bill, taking out $100 bill, let's do amount left to pay. That's going to be our first one. Console log CID object is our second one, and console log change to give is our third. So if everything went to plan, amount left to pay should be what? What did I say? Like 196 point something, because we just took out 100 from the 200. CID object should be all of this except with the 100 as 0 here, and change to give, although it's actually going to be an object, not an array of array like this because we converted it. And change to give should be an array with just this inside. Let's run this code. I'm gonna pray and hope that we get that. Okay, so we get 19674, and that's just fine because if you divide this by 100, you get 196.74, which is what I said earlier. This also looks fantastic here, this object, and this also looks perfect. So this is working as intended. Hallelujah. All right, now the only thing we have to do now is run this function for each of our denominations. So I'm gonna just copy that whole line, bring it down here, make this into 20, well, not lowercase, all caps. Bring it down here. 10, make sure you write these correctly. 5, make sure you're also doing the correct order, by the way, from the highest to lowest. 1, not dollar, but 1. Quarter. Dime, nickel, and penny. All right, so we have constantly updated our amount left to pay, CID object, and change to give. So let me just see if everything is correct here. Let me console log the three things again. And this time I'm just gonna do this. Amount left to pay, comma, CID object, comma, change to give. With the example that we have down here, I'm gonna run the code. And, why is our amount so high? I don't like that. I feel like we're not subtracting from it. Why do I feel that? But everything here is 0. Is that? No, that should not be the case. That should not be the case. So something wrong is happening here. Let's see what is going on. Let's see. Are these correct values here? Should return. Ignore the 100. 20 is 60. 10 is 20. 5 is 15. So something happened with the 5. Do you see this? It says 55 here, although it should have been 15. Let me change our value back to 100 here, because that's what it initially was, right? Let's run the code again, and we get 20. It's 60. 10 is 25. There's something going on with the 5, because they're giving us 55, although it should be 15. So let's get to the bottom of this. What is going on here? Something, what did I say? Something happening between the 5. So 10 to 5, something happened. I feel like here we did something wrong. 5 is 500, so that is all correct. These are all correct, except, let's see. Each time I'm gonna console log the amount left to pay, because I also feel like that's not going down. Do you see this? This is not going down. Why is the amount left to pay not going down? I'm gonna put an ES6 string interpolation here, and we're gonna write amount left to pay, and that is going to be what? No, that's not it. Okay, amount left to pay is going to be amount left to pay for money type. That's what I'm gonna console log, and let's run this. All right, so notice this value is not going down every time. So why is that the case? Are we not subtracting from amount left to pay? That's what it seems like is going on. So I'm gonna console log here, amount to subtract. Amount to subtract. Amount to subtract for money type. And we have two if conditions, so I also want that down here, right? Let's run this code again. And guys, I'm sorry if this is kind of frustrating, but this is just a process of figuring out these type of complicated algorithms. So amount left to pay for 100. Amount to subtract for 20 is 6,000, right? So do we not subtract from the 6,000? Why are we not subtracting? I am so sorry, you guys. Hopefully, most of you guys picked this up, but notice how I spelled amount left to pay. I capitalized the P, but for some stupid reason, I made this lowercase. So I just have to update all these amount left to pay with the uppercase version. That was so stupid of me. I'm terribly sorry. All right, so now let's see if our code runs as intended. We get back this, and that does look legit. That looks correct. So let's go back, erase all of our console logs. Guys, I'm so sorry about that. Hopefully you guys caught that before I did. Props to you if you did. That is one of the reasons why we should use TypeScript, but that's a discussion for another video. Let's erase all this console log. And now let's take care of our three conditions that we have. We could either have insufficient funds, closed, if we use all of our money, or open. Let's take care of the easiest one first, insufficient funds. We will have insufficient funds if the amount left to pay is equal to, is greater than 0, I mean. So if amount left to pay is greater than 0, then we have insufficient funds. So we will say this. That means we didn't take out all the money from our cash register. So we will say return status. Make sure you spell this correctly. Insufficient funds. And change is going to be an empty array. That's what they want. Okay, now we have two conditions. Close if the CID is equal, meaning we use all of the money in our CID. Now, how can we know if we use all the money from CID? What we can do is we could loop through our CID object. Remember, it's a key value pair. And we were subtracting from it from every time, right? If we add up all the values of it, and if it's greater than 0, then we know we didn't use everything in our cash register. But if it is equal to 0, that means we use everything, and that's where this status closed situation happens. So the way that we're going to do that is let's first grab all the objects, all the values, which is the amount from CID object. So object.values of CID object. And let's set this, oh, no, I'll do that later. So this will give us an array of all the values. Maybe like 132, 125, and so on. And then what we're going to do is we're going to call the reduce function again on this, and we're just going to add up all the values that we have. So we're going to have accumulator and the amount, and we're just going to do this inline, so return right away, accumulator plus amount, initializing the accumulator at 0. So this will give you const amount left in CID. Okay, now if amount left in CID is greater than 0, then we're dealing with this open situation because we still have money in the bank. Otherwise, we don't even need this else because we're going to return something in here. We're dealing with this close. So if we're dealing with close, let's do return status capital closed and change. This is very important. Change with cash in drawer as the value of the key change. Now, remember we passed in the CID into our function. We never actually altered that function. We just made a new CID object, which we altered this one, but we never altered the original CID array of an array, this nonsense here going on here. So what we can do here is just return our CID, and that should work. All right, now within the open situation, this is what we're going to do. Let's see. We have an object that we have to convert to this. Oh, no, actually we don't, because we were building our change to give array, right? So this is actually very simple. To return status open with change to give. So that should work. Let's see what the result of this cash register function is. I get this status open 2060. It seems correct. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get all of this code here. Make sure you get all of our function and our dictionaries. Paste it over here, and let's see if Freecodecamp likes it. And they do. I was actually hoping that it works, but it does work. Thank God. Now, hopefully you guys were able to follow along with me here. Hopefully you guys are able to understand what's going on here. If you don't, try to mess around with it. Try to put console log somewhere the areas that you don't understand. That's what I do all the time. What I want to do now is kind of refactor this code. We have a lot of repeated code here. Look at all this stuff. We're just calling it for each of these instances, right? So why don't we do this? Above our money dictionary, I'm just going to define denominations. So const and I'm going to make this capital because it's going to be, no, we'll just use lowercase, denominations. And I'm just going to hard code starting with 100, the highest value first, 100, 20, 10, 5, 1, quarter, dime, nickel. Make sure you write everything correctly, penny. And using our denominations now, let's go back down here. We got a lot of repeated code here. So I want to loop through our denominations array and do a for each function call on it. So let's do this. Denominations for each. We pass in a callback function here, and we are gonna have our money type. That's what we're looping through within our denominations. And for each money type, what do we want to do? We just want to call this function here. Update our variables like so, right? So let's see, amount left to pay. So I think this is good. Let me erase this 100, however, and put money type here instead. All right, so I think that will do everything. Let me erase all of this duplicated code here. And let's see if we get the correct answer for this one here. I'm gonna run the code. And it seems like we do. Our code looks a lot drier this time, a lot cleaner. Let's copy this and see if Freecodecamp is happy with this result as well. And they are. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much. If you're still listening to this video, guys, I give you guys mad props. Hopefully you guys were able to follow along with this. I'm sorry if it was a little bit confusing. I know I had a moment there where I got kind of stuck. Hopefully you were able to spot it. I didn't want to erase it because I kind of want to show you the process of how I go about debugging it. Granted, it was a very stupid mistake or spelling error. But however, if you don't use TypeScript and you just only do with JavaScript, that may happen time to time. So if you guys are starting out and you guys haven't touched TypeScript, I highly recommend you learn TypeScript and start integrating TypeScript to your code. However, again, that's not the point of this. This is a Freecodecamp tutorial. I know that this was a little bit of a hard one, so I'm gonna publish this on GitHub, and you guys can find it in the links below if you guys want reference to this. But let me go back on Freecodecamp. So we have finally finished this section here, JavaScript, algorithms, and data structure projects. Now, I finished everything here in the intermediate algorithm scripting and also now everything here. I don't know which one else to do. So guys, if you guys have a recommendation, if you guys have something that you want me to go through, please post it in the comments below and I will look into it. Guys, thank you guys so much for still listening in. If you guys like my content, please click like, or if you don't like my content, please click dislike and let me know why in the comment section below. And guys, please subscribe to my channel. You will constantly find these algorithm videos almost on a daily basis. And I also post React tutorial videos, JavaScript tutorial videos, whatever related to coding, you will find it here. And guys, happy coding. Have a good day.